David, how are you?
Good morning, Virginia. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. So David and I are going to go through website practices today. If you have a question, please type it in at the time or write it down so when we do get to questions and answers, you remember what your question was. I'm looking forward to answering them. So here we go. So my first question is, when did you last update your website? And do you know what your website has looked like through the years? There's a product called the waybackmachine.org that you can look up what your website, it started back here in 1999-ish. And so this is Amazon that I typed in, and it took a snapshot at different days, right? It's changed over time. So you can go back and look at your website. I actually had someone who had taken their website down and started to work with another company and decided that wasn't what they wanted, and they didn't preserve any of their data. So I steered them back here. They came to the Wayback Machine and could see their site on a certain date and get all their data back. So if we go back and we look, this is what Amazon looked like in 2007. So raise of hands of how many people remember that it looked like this. Don't raise your hands like this. Raise your hands over here on your status bar, because I can't see you. Yeah. So it has taken an evolution, and it went from this to this. This was 2010. It looked like this. It had moved to the sheets. I mean, it's an evolution. Your website is a living, breathing thing. And today, Amazon looks like this. So keep in mind, a website is not like a printed brochure and it's static and it's always the same, and that's not how you should do your website. It is a living, breathing piece of technology. Before you get started on your website, you need to know a little bit about yourself and have some things in place, because you need to be able to promote this on your website and through your social media sites. You need to know what your story is. Your mission statement, your story, and your history. You know, I have a lot of problems when I work with nonprofits understanding the history is not their story or their mission statement. They are three separate pieces, and you need to be able to tell each of them. You need to develop your tagline. I use a book called it's called Duct Tape Marketing. It's called Developing Your Core Message as the chapter, and it helps you walk through creating that tagline. It's a very simple chapter. Go through it 2 or 3 times. It's a great help. You should also have a citation guide. So I'm lowering everyone's hands. Does everyone know what a citation is? And I'm not talking about the ones you get from the police department. So a citation is any time you are mentioned on the World Wide Web. And you need to Google yourself and find them all, because it makes a difference, because you want all your citations to be the same. And the fact is that you put them up differently maybe. Someone else has put them up differently on a social media piece. Other people scrape your site and add them to their directory, but you need to find them and get them all the same, because Google really likes consistency. And you should have a folder on wherever you do it, with headshots, logos, colors, and fonts. Now, if you use something called Canva, which David did a demo on earlier, if you get the pro version, there's a spot in there for branding where you can have all of this so all your team can get it, or it's always in one place. So you need to know who you are before you start. So what is the purpose of your website? Is it to provide credibility? Is it to sell products and services? Is it a lead generator? Are you supporting your customers? Is it education or entertainment? You need to put these, because you can be more than one of these, but you need to know in what order they are, because you need to be able to present who you are in that manner. If all you're doing is leads, it's a landing page, you're collecting data. If it's providing credibility, then you want to talk about what you do, if you have certifications and things like that. If you're selling products or services, you have to have it organized and you have to have those pictures. It's customer support. You need to make it easy. How many of us have gone to a customer support page and they don't give us a phone number? God, that makes me mad. Then you have to look and look and look for it, and finally you can find it. So if it is customer support, you need to make it easy. And if you're doing education or entertainment, you need to make it fun. So you need to know the purpose of your website, and you can write these down and put them in the order that best suits you. It may only be 2 or 3 of them, but what is it that your website purpose is? The most important factor you have is the ease of use. I need to be able to find something in 2 or 3 clicks. I shouldn't have to hunt around. There should be a search piece for it, but you should organize it so it's very easy to find. So now I'm going to ask you, hypothetically, because you can't answer, who created your site? Was it a professional? Was it a friend? Or did you do it yourself? All of them are okay. And where is your site hosted? So these are hosting platforms that you have. Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, Shopify, GoDaddy, Site Builder, WordPress is a platform. They also have a site. And it's not where you begin. It's where you end. It's about adaptability and flexibility. Now, some of these are very easy to adapt and grow with and change. Some of them, you get a skin, you put it on, and that's, you have to put a title here, you have to put a picture here, you have to put text there, and it's very limiting. It's okay to start that way if you need to be on a real budget and do that. But again, it's not where you begin, it's where you end. It's a living piece of technology, and you want to make sure that you can be adaptable and you can make changes as you grow and change. So let's just look at a couple cookie cutter sites here. Let's see it. I hope I'm not in your way. So when I'm looking at these, they're all beautiful, laid out, gorgeous websites. You look and think, oh, that's great, I want it. But let's talk about Fresh Blooms. So one of the things they got right, big picture, it's flowers, shop plants. Your call to action on your primary real estate is taking you right to what people want, period. I came to Fresh Blooms to look at plants. Great. So if we go across the top at Mokisha Wellness, great picture. Obviously, it's our story. I'm not sure if I go there right away, it's the our story I want. You need to put yourself in the customer's purview, or the person who's visiting your site visitor. Is it your story I want to see? Or if I'm coming there, am I looking for a class? I find this limiting and not a call to action that is compelling for the person coming to your site. If we look at Best in Brooklyn Burgers, I think they should have a menu right down here under their name. They do have it right up here at the top, but right here, because I want to know what they have. I might want to know their address also. And I also didn't note that all 3 of these top ones did not have their phone number in the upper menu. So immediately it's there to call. If you look down here at new arrivals, right in the upper right-hand corner, no mistaking it, there's my phone number. You can contact me. So down here in the logistics, right away, the 3 things they want to do. Best prices, get a quote, call us now. We're ready. Absolutely 3 calls to action in their primary real estate. That's great. New arrivals, they're showing new arrivals. It's somewhere, it's closed. They're putting their best foot forward. I'm sure all of these are clickable, that you can get to the item right away. And they put their phone number right here, and they put a search up in the top. So if you're looking for pants, shirts, tops, they can get there very quickly. So all about promoting your business, 2 calls to action, something to download right away. I'm hoping that download pops up requesting an email address so they can capture leads. So that's a quick look at when you get a cookie cutter site. So if you got one of these, this is all you could do. You couldn't make changes. But it's a place to start. So let's talk about the 2 different big parts of website elements. The front part, which is consumer facing, which is content, and the technology, which is, I put computer facing, or it's back-end facing. So if we're looking at website content, we talked a little bit about it already. You have your layout and your branding. You have your outline, keeping in mind the 3-click rule. You have your content, which offers them frequently asked questions. CTAs are called calls to action. There should be one on every page. Not too many, because you want them either to do it or not to do it. And it's interesting. English grammar people will be very upset, but the website, the World Wide Web, is written to a 5th grade level by the government and an 8th grade level by everyone else. It needs to be easily scanned, and you need to use some of your keywords in your text, not keyword stuffing, but you need to make sure that you're using the vernacular that you're writing your site out. You need to have photos and videos. People react to them very positively, and you need to remember when you're choosing your photos that it's about what that photo image portrays, not that it's definitely one of your photos. And there's a balance between using canned photos and actual photos depending on your site, because you want it to be personal, but you want it to give it the professional image you want. And when you do your site, you want to have branded downloads that people sign up for an email to get, so you can continue to contact them. So here are 3 more sites that we're looking at. And it's definitely in the new layout, which is vertical, and you're scrolling down the page or scrolling up your phone. This first one's very pretty, lots of use of bread. They have a call to action here. And really, there's a lot of information and not another call to action here. So I think if you do a block, each block has a reference. You should give them some type of call to action. Your primary call to action should be in your top real estate, which is what fills the top of the page. If you look in the center one, they have a call to action. Each of these buckets are clickable. Call to action here, call to action here, and call to action down on the bottom. They're promoting themselves all the way through the first page. And if we look through this one, there's a lot of information, but not a lot of calls to action. It's great providing down here. We have a couple calls to action, but you have to scroll 3/4 of the page before you get to that. Remember, this is your prime real estate up here. I'm hoping that there's a call to action here on this button, and this is clickable, so they have this in their prime real estate. So let's talk about the back room now, which is a little daunting for some of you, because now I put up all the front end. What else do I have to do? Well, you do. You have to remember that use your citation document when you're building your website. Use your keywords and the descriptions that you put in that, so that your SEO and all comes together and matches. You have to have an SSL certificate. It used to be that just sites where you shopped needed an SSL certificate, and they were very expensive. They have come down dramatically now in terms of price, and Google wants every website to have an SSL certificate. They want it to be there. When you're setting up your site, you need to absolutely put in your Google Analytic tracking code. And including that, you want to have if you're on Facebook, have your Facebook pixel, have your LinkedIn pixel, so that you can do analytics on where you're pushing from. Very important. You need to make sure your site is mobile friendly. Now, when you do that, any of those platforms should say they're mobile friendly, but what you want to do is you want to take your URL and go to the Google mobile testing page, plop it in, and it will analyze your page and decide if it's mobile friendly or not. And this is important because Google is giving more credibility in its search to sites that are mobile friendly than sites that are not. It will tell you where your errors are and what you need to fix. But the fact is when we're sitting on the couch or sitting outside or sitting in a car waiting or sitting in the waiting room, we search our phones. So your site absolutely needs to be mobile friendly and useful that way. So then we're going to move on to photos. Photos need to be sized correctly for the web, even if you're doing something that's very dramatic. You need to make that photo smaller in pixels so that it will load quickly, because that's one of the pieces that you're ranked on in the Google Friendly is how fast your site loads. And you need to remember to name your photos correctly. A lot of people just take their photo and upload it. It says tree or dog, or it still has the DCM number on it. That's not giving you any extra. You need to open up that photo and you need to rename it with your company name and what it is. Because if you go to images in Google and click on it, they may find that image of the tree, but they're not going to know whose tree it is. So if it says Weiskopf Consulting Tree, then it is branded for my company and people will go there. If you're doing clothing, if you're doing shoes, if you're doing anything that's very visual, you want to make sure you've named your photos correctly. Your documents should also be named correctly. If you're putting something up there to download, it should be a branded PDF with your logo on the top, the title of it, all the information, and at the footer there should be all your contact information. Because if they're downloading it, this is now a piece of paper that is on their desk, in their home, that you've made a relationship with them because they've downloaded it. But you also need to name that piece correctly. So it says Weiskopf Consulting Website Analytics Download. So if anyone's searching for that, Google knows what it is and can put it in the search engines. Email sign-up code, you need to make sure you have a way to gather leads, whether you use a big lead program, whether you use a plugin from Constant Contact or MailChimp. You want to make sure it's there. It gets their name and their email address. That's all you need. Yes, you want to know everything about them, but that can come later in your relationship. What you want to do is get a contact with them so that you can market to them. Keywords. I talked about it, mentioned it in the first one. Keywords are very important, and there used to be a time when everyone stuffed keywords and put everything they could do in their keywords and the description. Well, Google's gotten much smarter than that when they scan your page with their crawlers. They read the keywords, they read the descriptions, they read the title tag, they read everything on the page, and it all has to match. So the title tag is an H1, H2, or H3 tag. So when Google looks at it and crawls it, it gives H1 the most important of what's going on in that page. The H2 and the H3 are still looked at, but they're not as important as the H1. You should have one H1 and multiple H2s and H3s, and they should all match your description and your keywords. So this is on the back end of your site, not just the text that you put on the front. So the text that you put on the front should match what these things are. Keywords are very important, and Google gets more and more technical in its algorithm when it's scanning your page to make sure what is on that page is what it actually is. So again, we're going back to Google. Is your website indexed at Google? So when you type in here, do you find it? The best way to get indexed, there are two, is to put Google My Business on there, get your Google Analytics code, or ask Google to crawl your site. So Google My Business, if you're not on there, how many of you are on Google My Business by a raise of hands electronically? Okay, not everyone. So Google My Business is very important, and because Google's where you go to search for things, Google My Business is free. If you put your business on there, you can claim it. You can put SEO keywords on it. You can put business postings on it, and Google matches it to your site, and it likes to do that. And that also, Google My Business is where you come up in that middle box. There's ads at the top of the Google search. There are the location pieces, and that pulls in from Google My Business. Then there are the organic ones at the bottom. It's more and more pay for play in some ways, so you have to do that. I'm going to talk about a little more on the next page. Ask Google to crawl your site. You should have a sitemap, a robots.txt, and there are Google Webmaster tools that you can use to check your site. Forgot I put a whole one in here about Google My Business. Even Google My Business has a Google My Business page. So when you type in your company name, it's what comes up over on the right-hand side. And all your information can be in here. You can have times, dates, open, photos, who to call. You can have posts. Google My Business is a great way, just as an extension like Facebook is to your business, to promote your business. It is free. There is no cost for doing it, and you can claim your business. And it's a great way, and you have to be in this in order to be in the location pieces. So when I Google Weiskopf Consulting, I fill the whole page on the left because I'm on LinkedIn and Yelp, and I have a blog, and I'm on Facebook. I also have my Google My Business account. So it's all right there that you can find it. Google has a lot of webmaster tools, and it can be daunting for you, but you can go in and learn how to use a search console. It gives you related keywords. If you have analytics on your site now, you can go in and look at what people searched for and then came to your page. It's a great tool, and it's free, and it helps you understand your website and why people are coming and how you're being found. We also want to make sure that our site is integrated with social media. What are you on? Where are you at? Are they all linked to and from your site? That branding document that you created on my first slide, you should use when you create all of your social media sites. One of the biggest thing is people don't want to do it, so they have someone do it for them. They use a different email address. They just put up any picture that they want. They don't use the right logo. And you want to make sure that your brand is consistent across the internet. So make that branding document, create the assets so that it's very easy to move it out and make your social media look the same. Now we're going back to those tracking codes. Does your sites have tracking codes? When you set up your website, you need to get your Google Analytics tracking code. You need to get Facebook and Instagram pixels. You need to get your LinkedIn code, and you need to have your email set up. These are all pieces in the back end of your website that enable you to know who's been to your website and remarket to them. If you want lead generations, and if you want to boost on Facebook, or not boost, advertise on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can go back to people who have already been to your site once. They know it. They're not going to share that with you, but you can promote to it. So these are all pieces that you need to have. So when you set up your sites, you can put those codes in the back end. So Google Analytics is very easy. Of course, it's free. You go in, you set it up, you get a code, you drop it into your site, and then you go into Analytics and you can see it. If you have a WordPress site, there's an easy plugin now that you can drop into your WordPress site that you don't even have to go to Google Analytics. It gives you a snippet of what you want to see. Because when you go to Google Analytics, there is so much information, you can be overwhelmed. So you really want to be sure that you're ready and you want to see just the data points that you're looking for. Okay, another raise of hands. Who knows what GDPR is? I kind of told you here, but there's also one in California now, and the fact is we're coming to that point. So you have to be responsible for the data that you collect. So if you're collecting email address, you need to state that on your site, you see those pop-ups that come up all the time that you have to agree to the fact that they're collecting data, and know that they are. So on your site, you have to have a privacy policy and a pop-up that says if you're collecting an email address, that you're not going to share it with anyone, that you're the only one who's going to use it. So it's important if you're putting mechanisms on your website to collect data that you have a privacy policy and you understand what the law is around collecting that data. So we're talking a little more about privacy. There is no legal requirement for it, but it just protects you, and it's very easy to put a privacy policy up. You can Google privacy policies and look at a whole bunch of different ones and then put together something that is for your site. It doesn't have to be long, it can be a paragraph. You just need to be able to protect yourself and let visitors know you're collecting personal information and that it's not going to be sold, it's only for your use. Calls to action. So there are many types of calls to action. We want to make sure, of course, we don't want someone to buy right away or sign up right away, and that's not, you have to develop a relationship with them. So you want to give them something to download. You want to share something with them to watch a video. You want them to register now for a webinar you're giving. You want to put a chat button in the bottom of your website so that if someone just wants to ask a quick question, you're there to answer it, and you need to either man it or tell them it's offline and you'll get back to it. If you're a nonprofit, you need to put that donate now and then add to cart. So there's many different types of calls to action. Where are they appropriate? How are you using it? And what relationship are you developing with your website visitor until you get them to click that buy more or add to cart button? Chat boxes. So down here, you can put a chat box. You see them on all the sites now. And be cognizant of where you put your chat box so that it doesn't cover something that's important. You can use the AI, which is artificial intelligence. So it automatically pops up and asks them what their name is. And then after that, you get their name, it asks them for their email address. And after that, if they need media assistance, you can tell them that. Otherwise, you can ask them to leave a message. Or if this is if you're automating it, which it can be automated when you're not manning it. People just like to ask a question and give an answer. Again, it's another way to communicate with your clients and get the information that you want and that they need at the immediate time. So I forgot to change my date on here, but video is big, very, very, very big. So using video in different ways, whether you create an explainer video, whether it's a video that you shot in a product, whether it's a how-to video, it's a great way to engage your clients and a great way for you to get, understand or get them to understand who you are and what you're doing without being a hard sell. So video is very important. Minimalism, so you don't want to put so much text on a page that people are overwhelmed. You absolutely want to give them the ability to scan that page and then go to more content afterwards. So keep that in mind. Thumb-friendly navigation, we talked about this earlier in terms of the fact is you need to scroll it and be able to click that button with your thumb. It can't be so small that you fat finger it and click something else. You can't put 3 buttons in a row that someone can't hit. You need to make it easy for that navigation to happen. So now we're to questions. I put a lot out there. I see, David, there's a lot in the chat, not a lot of questions. Have you been monitoring it?
So yes, there is a couple of questions. One of which comes from Sherry. She has a couple other ones. Another one says, do you recommend Vimeo or YouTube?
It depends on what It depends on your purpose. If you want to be able to monetize your videos, Vimeo is a way to go because you can hold them privately and then have people pay for them. And I think that's the paid part of Vimeo. On YouTube, everything is public. You get better SEO if you do it correctly because you can put keywords, search descriptions, and everything in there and link to your website. But until you get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 viewing hours, you can't have a vanity URL and you can't charge people to watch videos. So if it's getting known, you want to be on YouTube. If it's because you want to put something up that you want to charge for, then Vimeo may be the way to go. Did that answer the question okay?
Yes, I believe it did. Couple other
Can you talk
questions.
just a little louder for me, David? I'm sorry.
Couple other questions from Sherry. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Sherry asks, can you help with one or where to research in regards to a online a website platform?
So the question is, what is the best website platform?
So can you help with one or where to research the best website platform?
Yeah, that would be fine. There's a list of them. They were in the second slide. It depends on, and again, it depends on where you are in your website journey. When I build a site for a client, I use GoDaddy. It's 99% up. It gives me all the different pieces I need. I install my own WordPress on there when I do it, and it gives me the ability to put an SSL certificate on it, and it does have a site builder, but when you move to the GoDaddy site builder, just like Wix and Weebly and Shopify, they're cookie cutter sites that may not give you all the flexibility that you want.
Okay.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Next question. Next question is, what is your opinion on redirecting visitors away from your site with links?
So if I'm going to use a link to another site, and I think you can do that, you need to open it in a second window because you don't want them leaving your site. You want, when they open that site, there's a reason for it, right? You're sending them there to provide credibility, to provide information. Maybe it's a shopping link for something. You want your site to stay open in one tab and open that other site in another tab. And if you're sending them to another site, you would probably want to get reciprocation from that other site, the link back to you, if you can do that.
Okay. The next question from her is opinion of blogs in drop-down or live nested.
Can you repeat the question, David?
Sure. Opinion of blogs in drop-down or live nested.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
I'm not sure I do either. Sherry, if you can expand upon that, that would be great. And then you already went over the chat window opinion or best practices, so that one's taken care of. Besides that, I'm not seeing any other questions. Just waiting on Sherry to see if we can get a little explanation on that one question.
So the chat box, you just have to be, usually there's a free chat box called Talk To that you can plug in that works relatively well. So if you're just starting, that's fine. If you want AI, you have to do a little more investigation. I think Talk To does a little AI, but it's not the big take it down, take it down, take it down. So you can make that choice. If you're planning, and it gives you the ability on where you want to put your chat box, lower right side, lower left side. You need to remember that when you're designing your website and putting things up, what that chat box may or may not cover.
Okay, and Sherry expanded upon her question. Do you advise a blog being a drop-down choice or scrolling within the website homepage?
So if you're going to have a blog, and you should, it should be a tab on your website. So if you're putting a WordPress website together, which is essentially a blog platform, you have both pages and blogs. And those blogs can be just a tab that's on your website file menu, then takes them to the page that has the blog then with all of the, you know, categories for all the other things you've written. So it's part of yours. I wouldn't call it blog. I would call it resources, stories, how-tos, something that explains to the person who's going that they're going there, they're going to find that information. Just putting the word blog is not going to entice them to click on that tab. But in your blog also, keep in mind, every single blog post is an individual web page, and that's how Google looks at it when they crawl it. So your blog post should have a picture that's named correctly, the text. It should have a signature just like your email address does with links back to other social media sites. And that blog page also on the back end can have keywords and a description for SEO.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more at the moment.
Wow, no questions this morning. I left lots of times for questions.
Nothing else popping up.
Okay, then that was your quick half-hour training this morning. This video will probably be up sometime by Monday, since it's Friday and I have a full day. I appreciate you taking the time to come today. I enjoy sharing my knowledge, and I hope that you learned something today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.